Am I the a-hole inviting my parents to my house after they didn't respond to my fiancé's medical emergency? My fiancée, Allie, 31 female, is the type of person that calls people 2 or 3 times in a row when she wants to get hold of them for anything. The first time she did this to my parents, we were driving to a concert and I asked her to call my folks from my phone. She called, they didn't pick up. She started calling my mom again right away, and I asked what she was doing. My mom picked up right away, worried. Allie asked our question. I told Mom false alarm. Hung up. She asked why my mom had been irritated, and I explained to her in my family, we only call twice in a row if it's an emergency. Allie has never followed this and will always call them repeatedly for the most mundane stuff. If one doesn't answer, she'll sometimes call my other parent. All that to say, a couple of weeks ago, she broke her leg while working around the house. I was in a workshop for work that day and could only check my phone on breaks. She called my parents since they live a couple streets over, but neither answered their phones. She wound up having to call an ambulance. I got her message about 2 hours after she fell and went to the hospital. She was pretty mad at my parents when I got there. I let them know what happened, and they also rushed to the hospital to apologize and check on her. She didn't want them coming in, so they sat outside for a bit, got her flowers from the gift shop, and eventually went home. I took some time off work to take care of her, and my parents have been offering help as they could. Her sister drove in to help so I could go back to work. Last night, I decided to make a nicer dinner than usual and wanted to invite my parents. I gave her a heads up. I was inviting them and asked if she wanted me to rearrange some of the chairs and table so we can all eat together. She got mad I wanted to invite them and is of the mind I shouldn't be wanting to speak with them after they ignored her. Her sister agrees with her and feels I'm putting my parents over my soon-to-be wife. Up until this point, I haven't said anything to her about the situation, but I did then and told her it was a massive fuck-up in communication on everyone's part and time we all talk it out to put behind us. Neither she nor her sister think she should stop being mad at them. Was I an a-hole to invite my parents over? Asked info. My parents were sitting outside for their quiet time when she called. It's not unusual for them to not answer calls, texts, and wait to return them later when they do that. I myself had to do the 2 calls routine, so they knew it was urgent.
Info. How many calls did Allie make to your parents before calling the ambulance? More than the usual multiple calls? Did she at any point text them to say it was truly an emergency?
3 times for my mom, then 2 times for my dad, which sadly is normal for her. She didn't send them a text.
This is her own damn fault then. Send a text. It is 2024.
Not the a-hole. You explained the communication norms in your family after the first time she double called. She didn't listen, and so your parents had no way to know it was an emergency instead of just another Tuesday. Your description of a massive miscommunication sounds accurate, and talking it through would be the next right move. Does she have an explanation for how they should have known? Or is she assuming that when she wants to get a hold of someone, they should drop everything and talk to her, whether or not it's urgent? Because the latter isn't respecting other people's time and priorities.
I haven't asked her yet. I've been wanting to know myself, but trying not to kick off an argument or kick her while she's down and still in pain. I know I need to ask her, though.
It's fine that you're waiting, but I'm puzzled that you're calling it massive miscommunication. This was a situation she set up to happen. There was definitely going to be an emergency at some point when people ignored her multiple calls. It was just a question of time, because that's how she trained people to treat her. Is she this self-centered in other aspects of life?
Not the a-hole. Has she never heard the story of the boy who cried wolf? She intentionally chose a pattern of behavior that ensured they would not assume she was calling for emergency assistance. Now, she is angry that they behaved as they did because of her past behavior. It is regrettable, but it is her fault. She needs to accept responsibility for her own choices.
Am I the a-hole for telling my newfound father and his wife that I'm not going to take part in their religion ever? I met my father in September of last year. I, 16 male, was 15 at the time, had recently lost my mom to cervical cancer, and had found out that my grandparents and 2 of my aunts did not want to keep taking care of me. And instead of letting me go to my aunt out of state, they contacted the man who wanted nothing to do with me before and involved a social worker, so I would need to go to him instead of the aunt I actually knew and who did want me. Because a social worker was involved, she made the effort to put me with my biological father over my aunt. I pleaded with her to let me live with my aunt, and my aunt pleaded for this as well, but we were denied. I was told a biological parent will always get custody over an aunt or uncle who has no legal rights to the child, especially when my original guardians, my grandparents, sent me to my father instead. So in October, 3.5 weeks after I met him for the first time, I moved to another state to live with my father and his family. For those who will tell me I was lied to or whatever, my father has admitted he knew about me, but he was disgusted and embarrassed by his promiscuous ways in the past, and for having premarital sex, and he decided to start over. He said his wife was thankfully very open-minded, and was happy for me to live with them and have a relationship with them despite my origins, which have fuck all to do with me. My father and his wife are very religious. I'm not. I was raised by an atheist mom, had a mostly atheist family, and I have no interest in joining or taking part in anything religious. This is a serious point of contention with my father and his family, who try taking me to church and try to set it up so I will join their church and get baptized. I have refused. I have also said I want to live with my aunt, but that gets denied. I do talk to her via DMs and video calls, but it's not the same. She did try to petition for custody, but the different states thing added complications, especially when a social worker is still actively involved. Things got way more tense recently because 2 of my father's other kids were questioning me on why I don't pray and stuff like that. And I told them I didn't believe. They tried to get me involved with their church stuff, and I said no. They got upset and tried to do all this converting stuff, and they're only middle schoolers for fuck's sake. My father tried telling me I shouldn't shoot it down so quickly, and he told me to give it a try, and I said no. Then his wife decided to get her say, and she told me I should be grateful for a chance to be saved, and I'm being very stubborn and should show them respect as my parents, to let them guide me into religion. I told her they are not my parents. They are randos I'm forced to live with, and I will never take part in their religion ever, and they need to accept that, because I don't believe in God or anything. They didn't like my closed-mindedness, and they were pissed I spoke to them with such finality. Am I the a-hole?
Not the a-hole. Am I right in understanding that your bio father does want you to live with them now, despite having nothing to do with you in the previous 15, 16 years, and you having the other and preferred option? This seems enough to label him as an a-hole already, trying to indoctrinate you. As long as it's not forceful or has other important things contingent on it, it's not too bad. But you definitely have a final say.
Yes, that's right. He has decided to now try and be my parent, despite the fact he's not to me. He won't let me go live with my aunt either, and I have told him that's what I want and asked him to do it.
It's very simple. Tell all his church fellows that you are the kid he abandoned because you were born out of wedlock, that you are an atheist, that you have a loving aunt but they are forcing you to live there. These type of religious good people care for their reputation above else. I wouldn't be surprised if they are twisting the story to make your dad seem like a martyr.
Not the a-hole. You've handled this like an adult. Continue petitioning the social workers and court system to live with your preferred relatives during these next 2 years.
I have to wonder if Dad has only taken OP in because of SSI payments. OP should be receiving benefits after his mother passed away. Where is this money?
I am so sorry that you've been forced into this situation. I wish for your sake that your grandparents had been more understanding of where you wanted to live. Not the a-hole in this situation. I think emancipation for minors is a difficult thing to accomplish in most states. For one thing, you typically have to prove that you are financially independent, which would mean a job making enough money to support yourself. If you just leave and go to your aunt's house, there are apt to be some legal repercussions for her for providing a runaway minor a place to live. All you can do is keep pushing the social worker to support your move to your aunt's house. Hopefully, as soon as you turn 18, at the very latest, you can get out of there and go stay with your aunt while you find your feet as an adult.
What do you think of these stories? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos.